In this video, we're going to talk about what aspects of your trading should be flexible and which aspects should be rigid. Stay tuned. Hey traders, a very warm welcome to you. So trading is great. We have a massive amount of opportunity. Multiple markets to trade, thousands of markets with stock, include stocks as well. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Loads of opportunities each day, each month, each week. We can trade a multiple amount of strategies. There are a massive amount of indicators. We can do what we like. But we know, and we've talked about this before in videos, the best thing for us to do is to bring the boundaries in so that we have some constraints. So we can narrow our focus down and say, hey, I'm day trading gold. I'm swing trading Apple. I'm swing trading tech stocks. I'm mean revert pair trading currencies. Whatever it may be. We know that we have to do that to give ourselves the best chance of success. However, if we put too much rigidity on our trading plan, we're going to stifle our creativity, if you like, our trading ability, our trading gut, the kind of intuition we have. So we have to find that fine line. How much flexibility do you put into your trading plan and how much rigidity do you put into your trading plan? Well, let me just go through some of the things that I think need to be flexible, some that need to be rigid, and let me give you an example of how I've used this kind of hybrid approach in my own trading. So first of all, the number one thing is risk management. Do you know if you are not being rigid in your risk management, you are likely to fail? It's unfortunate, but it's true. This really needs to be a lockdown, solid, double locked, encased in concrete. You're not touching it. So what I mean by risk management, and this, by the way, this is the guy who was too flexible in his risk management. He's very unhappy. Whereas this guy here, he is very rigid in his risk management and he is super happy and he's got a better haircut too. Anyway, the point is, right, what I talk about risk management, it is maximum loss per day, maximum loss per week, per month, per year, whatever it may be. That max loss must be strict. You cannot be flexible in it. Then it's maximum risk on each trade. Now, is position size flexible? Yes, but within boundaries. You may say to yourself, hey, I've got some flexibility here, but there's some rigidity there. And this is the point about flexibility and rigidity, guys, is that, you know, you say to yourself, hey, I'm not going to trade more than whatever it is. If we're talking about spread betting, £50 a point, for example, on a specific instrument. It's got to be for each specific instrument because volatility is going to be changing. But I will go down to as low as £10 per point, and I'm give myself the flexibility in there based on the grade of the setup. So that's one way of kind of being flexible within solid, rigid, unbreakable boundaries. And that means you don't suddenly go £100 a point because you think it's great. Because guys, when we're trading, we have rose-tinted glasses on, the trade comes out, we think it's the best trade we've ever seen in our life. We pile into it and we don't end up doing well out of it because we're discarding all of the information, all the knowledge and the research that we've done in the cold light of day. So risk management has to be absolutely locked down. There's no deviation from it, except if we're doing something like this and we still have these brick walls that cannot be gone past, but we have some flexibility in between that. Next thing is set up filters. This needs to be rigid. You know, we need to be solid about how you are taking a trade. Now, that might seem counterintuitive at first, but if you're not strict with how you're setting up the trade, and what I mean by filters is, hey, I need to see this, this, and this before I potentially pull the trigger. The point is, if you're flexible in these, then you can't measure it. Because you may have taken one where this didn't happen, this indicator didn't cross the indicator, or this candlestick wasn't quite as long as it should be, or the closing price didn't quite go under here. And when you start becoming flexible, you can't measure it because you don't know how far away from your setup criteria you went. Now, by all means, say to yourself, hey, I've got one big setup, but then underneath it, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 setups, which are similar, but allow me to be flexible in one specific criteria. But again, even though it's flexible, you're still saying, okay, well, you might get 4 out of 5 of the indicators set up, 4 out of 5 of the filters, 4 out of 5 of the filters, but the other way around. As long as you are still doing what you're allowing yourself to do. Because at the end of the day, guys, the point is when you're building a trading plan, and you're putting those frameworks in. You're doing it because you believe it's in your best interest. If you start lobbing that out the window while you're in the heat of the battle, you're basically not trusting yourself. You're basically saying, I don't trust myself, and I think this is good enough to take without even kind of worrying about the consequences of not sticking to it. So this is so important. Anyway, so setup filters should be rigid. Number 3, pulling the trigger. This is something I think you should have some flexibility with. Now, you've got to be careful here, and I've got to be careful what I'm saying, because I don't want to misunderstand what I mean by saying, hey, you might pull the trigger, you might not. You should be pulling the trigger. If this setup filter goes yes, 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 tick, 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 then you should be pulling the trigger. But again, similarly with this, you should have some flexibility of when you pull the trigger. And this is where the discretion comes in. Now, can you overrule yourself? If it's in your trading plan, perhaps you do, but you don't do it on the fly. You have it in a trading plan that says, hey, if for whatever reason there's something else occurring in this little area of zone that the prices I'm supposed to pull the trigger at and I don't like it, then you quite can happily not take the trade as long as you're logging it. So going back to the initial point, pull the trigger. So let's say this is a price level now instead of £1 per point. Let's say, we're at 100 here, we're at 99 here. The filters are there, the trigger is ready. But we've got, say the filter triggers here, filter triggers, so confuse themselves. All the filters are met there, and that might be an indicator, it's closing level, volume, whatever it may be. But then we've got some flexibility around that activation point where we can take the trade or not. But if it goes beyond that, we don't take it, because here we're chasing, and here we know that it's too low for whatever reason. So again, having that layer of flexibility. Entry versus exit. Right, I'm going to skip onto this point of flexibility within some kind of structure and show you what I do for stops, guys. So and actually this came from many years ago when I started trading the Dow. So what was that, 10 years ago, something like that. Anyway, I would have a 10-point stop. I was scalping it and it wasn't quite as active back then. I'd have a 10-point stop, 10-tick stop, and that would be more automatic closing point, close, close, close. And that was based on the ATR was pretty average, and that was based on kind of the month we're in, the volatility. So that was what happened. But then I realized I was getting stopped out quite a lot. I wasn't quite doing it well enough. Things weren't right. So what I did is I said to myself, okay, I've got a 15-point hard stop, right? That's where the rigidity comes in with the plan. You cannot do anything. But if it goes 10 points, between 10 and 15, there's a discretionary element that allows me to close the trade if I want. So I'm long here, the market goes down, 10 ticks, there's my 15-tick hard stop. If it gets in this zone here, I can decide to close it early or not. So that's going to be my decision, whatever decision-making process I have. If it comes here, 10, 12, 11, 13, I don't like it, I can cut it. But what I can't do is let it go past 15. I can either hold it in this area or I can let it go and it stops me out automatically at 15. So that's an example of how you have a rigid plan, but you give yourself a little bit of flexibility within the actual parameters. So you can allow yourself the kind of, area to flourish and develop as a trader. And guys, that is it. Rigidity, flexibility, some things are really important to keep absolutely solid. Other things, give yourselves a little bit of room, give yourself a little bit of leeway, learn from it. As long as you're writing the notes down, acknowledging it, and you're documenting what you're doing, you can learn from it and develop. All right, guys, take care. Good trading. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.